finishing up my first set of arms back from powder coat. Full tech Shearer long travel setup. I had these already. Just need a wipe off. These were pretty much freshly powder coated. I think they'd only done about 4 hours. So they're perfectly fine, ready to go. But these are going to go on. I've got to put the bushings, ball joints, and grease nipples and things in them and get them put straight on then. And then I'm fairly sure this bike will fly together after that. Just an update on this one. Done the A-arms and just need to put the track rod ends into the pitman arm. And it's just all buttoning up stuff after that. Prop shafts on, etc. But we've had a practice date announced, so it's pretty important to get a race bike up and done. I can park that other bike for now. And I think that's about it. I'm going to use most of the components from the purple bike on this one and a few new bits. But so the purple bike last year was -1 inch per side, so it was a narrower bike, but this year it's back to full width because I've got plenty of parts for it. I had plenty of parts last year to do it, but I just went for a -1 last year. So the third one as such is going to be -1 setup with my custom Axis shocks. Got a new set of shocks for this bike, and what was the green bike has TFX for it, so it'll be between a shootout sort of between these shocks and the TFX, and get them both dialed in as good as I can. So I've just finished final assembly on the A-arms. Had a bit of trouble with some of the ball joints that weren't going in quite straight, so just had to use the trick of cooling the ball joint down, heating the arm up. Gave me a little bit more, not flexibility, but a little bit more tolerance. So these are powder coated, bare bushings in, ball joints in, ready to go on to join the two that's already on there. And just need a bit of a wipe down first, bit of grease left on some of them. So I think I will start with the front end, get that done, and move on to the rear end. And then whilst we're at it, we've got the starter motor to put on. I can't do the throttle bodies yet, although they are there and ready, because I'm missing the gaskets to go in here. Part of one left there, but they peel off every time you take them on and off. And then I've got to take that CV prop shaft off I did a video on to clean it, give it a quick paint and put that back on there. I'll also double check my diff fluid levels, gearbox fluid. I might change the gearbox fluid actually. Oil filter on it as well. On the engine, that is. And other than that, finish off with the rest of the assembly. So that's it for now. I'll bring you back when I've put some A-arms on. Just finished putting the front end on, fully tightened up, ready to go. Nice and stiff, nice and tight, no playing the bearings. Usual process for the bolts, of course, copper slip anti-seize. And then once the bolts are in and the nuts are just started, I grease them to make sure I can pack as much grease in there as possible, then tighten it, and occasionally get a bit of residue pop back out of these. But that's the front end back together. Ooh, the front A-arms on, front end's nowhere near done. So I'll get the rears on now, and then hopefully stick some axles and knuckles on. I may even get as far as suspension tonight. So we're back a few days later. Got the rear arms on. What was it, on Friday night? We're now on Monday evening. I know these videos are a bit jumbled together, but it's just as and when I can get to do stuff. So they're all on, but I've put everything loose. So top arms are loose, bottom arms are loose. They're going to stay loose because I have to put my Quad Logic bumper on and it bolts on there, so stay loose. I've left the front ones loose. I need to take clutch cover off and put some clutches on because there's nothing in there at the moment. Also, I need to replace this standard bar with a Checo one, which I've got in my box of tricks. And I also leave these loose got that little bit of forward and back play just to help get the rear knuckles in, because sometimes it's a bit of a pain. Don't quite align up with how the frame bends over the time of racing it. So, other than that, tie rods, J-parts, rod ends, best there is, some random nuts and bolts. So yeah, again, I'll show you the process of putting these together in a second. So just about to put these rod ends together. As with anything, a little bit of anti-seize never goes amiss. So, not too much, just a little bit on the edge of the threads. Because if you put it on the ends, it'll work its way down. So I'll do the back side of these in a second when I've got my other hand free. But that will just stop them corroding in track rod ends, or track rods. Track rods, tie rods, keep changing my mind. And then stops them being a pain in the backside to adjust. But make sure you remember, that's my left hand thread one, that's my right hand thread one, my right hand thread end, left hand thread end. But my left hand thread end is going to be outboard, because that way I can get to my flats for my spanner to adjust them. So I'll put these together, put the other one together as well, and then I'll just show you putting them on. So I got one done, and I got one end of the other one in, but the threads just need cleaning up slightly because that was really hard to start. So I'm waiting. I've just ordered a left hand tap to do that end, and I'm just going to wait for that. So the clutch cover's off, get some clutches in it and a belt, brand new belt while I'm running the engine. I can run them in together, get the starter motor on as well, that way the engine's nearly buttoned up. So the time has come. We're using an STM secondary clutch as always. Need to clean that little bit of grease off there. STM secondary clutch as always, gold spring, and oh, can't say what helix. And then of course, best belt on the market, Ultimax XP. So for the Polaris Scrambler, it's in a UXP 448. I'm very lucky to be partnered with these through CRP products or Beltline in the UK. So if you ever want one of the best belts on the market, get in contact with CRP or Beltline and they will sort you out. I have, touch wood, because you can never be too sure, never had one of these things break. Watch this, I'll have a failure now, but that'll be through no fault of the belt. It'll be that I haven't run it in properly or anything. So, but the best belt on the market is one that's running and bedded to the clutches properly. No matter what belt it is, if you just floor it from the start, it will break or it will have a short lifespan. Bed them to your clutches and they last ages. I can probably get 2 seasons out of one. I am a bit sympathetic on the throttle, which I'm hoping to change this year, but I know I've got the belt that can keep up with that. So, like I say, STM secondary, I've got to put the belt extraction tool in a second, and then a tuned primary with different spring and weights. I believe that's from RBS in America. Ryan Scheller at RBS knows his stuff. He's the man to speak to about clutching and Dynajet power visions and tuning for the Polaris Scrambler. He knows his stuff. So I will get back to you when I've got the belt removal tool in. So I've got my belt removal tool in. So this replaces the main bolt. Thread it in, tighten the nut down, and it pushes the clutch apart by compressing the spring. So what I like to do now I've got my belt out the sleeve, it's going to be quite hard with one hand. So, belt onto dry clutch. Feed it round. I'll cut that bit out. So there you can see, I need to put the bolt in that, and then I will take this out and I'll squeeze that belt and push the belt back up and secure it in that clutch. It's not focusing very well. There we go. So yeah, undo that nut and back that out, undo the threaded bar. It will squeeze that together, push the belt up, take it to the bottom roller. But before I do that, I'll be putting the bolt in there. Just hand tight for now. I'll torque everything down later on, once we've got the bolt in the top as well. But just hand tight, I'll secure that clutch on there then. This is just a quick one on anyone potentially struggling to install an STM secondary. Not that it's a bad product in the slightest, I'm nowhere near saying that. Not even to do with them really. Sometimes when you've potentially removed it and put it back in, you'll go to start the original factory bolt and it seems like the bolt's not long enough. It won't reach the threads. So it won't reach the threads with this misalignment washer. But as you saw then, what I just removed was, from the previous part of the video, was the belt removal tool, the threaded bar. Because that's a bit longer than the bolt for the clutch retaining, I take the clutch bolt out, put this in with the nut in front of it and just tighten this on, and it pushes the clutch on. And there you can see, hold your horses. So in the hole, and we're engaged in threads. So if you look, that had a good inch to go in. Yeah, a good inch that clutch has been pushed further on. And the only issue is here, there's not enough room to swing any sort of mallet or just soft blow to tap it on, just to tap it onto them splines. So now, with winding that on, I've got all the room in the world now, and all the threads that I want to push this in. Right, just ready to torque these down. Got the magic book out. So this is the Scrambler manual. Got very lucky to get this with a bunch of parts, and it's been a godsend ever since. Every Polaris tool part number you could ever need, and torque value. I've built and stripped bikes by this book plenty of times. It's brilliant. So drive clutch is a left-hand thread, and the driven is a right-hand thread. So 64 for the left, 50 for the right. So for that, I'm not sure if the digital torque wrenches do it. They might do, because they can fancy and they do both ways, but I don't have a fancy digital one. I've got this Teng one, which is absolutely spot on for me. And to get left-hand torque, you simply push the 1/4" anvil through that side. So it still reads as a right-hand torque, but it's actually on the other side, mirror facing, so it comes out as left-hand. So I'll get these torqued up, and just to by yourself is quite a, obviously never leave your torque wrench set either, and never drop them. By yourself, I can't film while I'm doing this. Maybe I might put it down. By quite a hard thing. So I use a breaker bar and just wedge it through, just to stop the clutch turning whilst I'm doing it. And same in there, it just happens to fit quite nicely in there. And it does when I come to turn it anyway. Either that or a crowbar. I know neither are correct, but it's the best of what I've got. So I'll prop this up to film, and then I'll get on with doing these. So they're all torqued up, ready to go, fresh belt, can't beat it. So I'll just put the clutch cover back on now, then I can tighten up my rear end. And I'll put my torque wrench away and my book away, because I don't need that now. Back cover back on. You may notice I've missed one, and I've missed two. That is because if you're in a race, which I do, if you ever have to swap a belt mid-race, it's a painful, stressful job as it is. Without having, you've got your rear prop shaft in this gap. So getting to that one right there is an absolute pain. And then, without taking as little bodywork off as possible, you really can't get to that either. With this one, you can get up and in, but that one is a pain. So I leave those two out. Never had an issue with water ingress. But saying that, we don't really go underwater for prolonged periods of time. We're blasting through a bit of water and out the other side as quick as possible. So I would say leave them in if you go in submerging it like a submarine, like some people do. But other than that, clutch is done and ready to rip. What happens when you get a bit ahead of yourself? You end up putting the wrong arm on the wrong side. Shock meant to go in there. Oh, yeah, it can't mount because, oh, there's the mount. So I've got to get these buggers swapped over. Front is ready to receive hubs and shocks. I've done my track rods on the inside end. I'll swap these rear arms over. Axles, knuckles, same on this. Shocks will be going on last because they're a bit of a surprise. But we're getting there. Unfortunately, these haven't got a seat on them properly. Which is it's like a misalignment collar. So I had to order these. But when I put the misalignment collar in, it makes the bolts too short. So I make a run to the nut and bolt shop tomorrow to get them. But other than that, I'll get everything else bolted up. Start motor on, just ticking off all the little jobs now. And then I can start putting the final few biggish components on. So I've just got finished up putting the tie rods on, knuckles, axles. So we've got Demon axles up front and Super ATV Rhinos out back with military rear knuckles, standard fronts. The standard fronts are actually a really good knuckle because they're the lightest knuckle you can get. But you've got to keep up to tightening the pinch bolts on them after every ride. Otherwise they wallow out. But I've never actually seen one break yet. Touch wood. Checo rear brace, CVT brace. I've put some new Heim joints. Well, Americans call them Heim joints, we call them rose joints. Cleaned up all the knuckles. So she's ready for these to be cleaned up. J-Parts race discs on rear hubs all the way around. So even for the front, because the front alloy ones snap. Didn't get round to putting the starter motor in, unfortunately. Steering stem's all tightened up. She needs to get the J-Parts, what's it called? Steering stem bushing holder. Yeah. Swapped to put my Checo rad support on. Yeah. So we're at a good point now. This weekend I'll get the top brace on across there and the wiring loom. Starter motor definitely on. Try and get that area bolted up and just inch closer and closer and closer to starting it up. I've just freshly painted, well, put a touch of paint on the top bar. Same with that J-Parts CV prop shaft. If you've seen the previous video, it was messy. But that's just normal. I mean, it's spinning round, you're getting mud, dirt, grit and grime on there, so it's going to wear the paint off. So, freshened it up before the new season. Rear shock tower brace. I can only fit one side of that on mine, so one's better than nothing. Rear prop shaft on. That's going on this weekend, this front prop shaft. Closer and closer, and then tanking. I think I've got 2 more videos planned. Maybe, yeah, 2 more videos planned left on this bike, maybe 3. But that doesn't include talking through shocks and wheels and tyres. They're separate. I've got a couple of things I want to talk through with them. Just because I keep getting asked a few questions on the shock stuff more. What's long travel? What's the best brand? And then on the tyres, it's 14-inch or 12-inch rims. How do you get 12-inch rims? They don't fit with standard calipers. Things like that. So there's a bit more in depth to talk through with them. But I'll be putting the brakes on as well. Again, that's another discussion that'll come into talking about the wheels and tyres. But long story short, I run Razor buggy double piston calipers all the way around. Stops better, 10 times better, and I split my brakes front and rear. So I've got 2 master cylinders on the bars. But that'll just about wrap up this video. I'm sorry if the videos are a little bit jumpy backwards and forwards, cutting to and from clips, but it's just the way I can do it. I'm going to try and get something set up so I can put my GoPro on to film all the stuff in between, so it doesn't seem as jumpy in between. But for now, you're sort of going to have to deal with what you're given. Again, probably about 5 people watching, not fussed as long as it helps someone. If it helps someone, then I don't mind. Right then, I shall see you in the next one.